Hello, YouTube. This is the Gentleman Scholar. Today we're going to be talking about Lonesome Dove. See, I've just finished reading Comanche Moon, and no, I'm not reversing this image, just for a couple seconds of showing a book. Um, and it was, as you could see, a feast of a book. And it was the last one written in the Lonesome Dove quadrilogy or tetralogy, whatever you want to call it. And so basically, you have Larry McMurtry writing Lonesome Dove, Streets of Laredo, and then of course later on in his career writing Comanche, Dead Man's Walk, and then Comanche Moon, all of which have been transformed into miniseries, corresponding miniseries. The most famous of which, of course, is Lonesome Dove. And so I'm going to talk about my history. It's impossible to talk about one book without mentioning the events in the others. So I'm just going to kind of treat the whole tale as a whole. And hopefully that'll go over somewhat coherently. Um, yeah, so basically, you have Once Upon a Time. Let me bring you back to that scene in The Two Towers, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, when Samwise is talking to Frodo about the great stories. And he was almost talking to the camera, when he's saying this, almost breaking the fourth wall. He was saying that we I want to, basically, it's like we're the heroes in one of the great stories that everyone wants to hear, even though they know the ending, where the hero could have given up at any time, but choose not to. Those are the stories that mean something. Those are the stories that move on, that live on. And Lonesome Dove is one of those stories. It's one of those stories that stayed with me pretty much for my entire life. The secret origin of that, Once Upon a Time, have to go back, so bear with me. Um, Once upon a time, I grew up, my father loved Westerns. That had always been a thing when I was growing up. I didn't care for Westerns. If it wasn't superheroes or science fiction or cartoons or whatever, I didn't care. Did not give a rat's ass. But then, as I got into my 20s, I lived with my dad twice, as I started my career as a flight attendant. Lived on Saturdays he would spend time, of course, watching westerns, and of course, I sat down watching them with him. Wagon Train, Bonanza, a whole bunch of others, and then I came to realize that there were some really good stories being told here. So I kind of got hooked on him thanks to my dad. Um, and so, as I went off to discover the western on my own in my own way, of course, remember seeing Pale Rider, the Clint Eastwood movie in the '80s. Then, of course, I saw Unforgiven, which was, it was one of those fresh, dark reinterpretations of a western, and of course, I was raving about it because it was excellent. I mean, how could you not? Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, uh, well, I can't remember his name. Lex Luthor. Well, I can't remember his name. The actor, you know who I'm talking about. Playing little, playing. He played Lex Luthor. He played Little Bill in this particular thing. And why can't I remember? Senior moment. But that was just an excellent western. Of course, I was raving to it to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I'm glad that you like westerns and stuff, but my favorite western is Lonesome Dove." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, cool, cool. Lonesome Dove, whatever." Um, I knew a family in Scotland once upon a time. The old man, westerns have traveled quite a ways overseas. The great mythology of it. So there's this old man in Fife, Scotland called Tam McRuvie. Great guy, and of course, I was telling them, Unforgiven's a great movie. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. That's great. But my favorite western is Lonesome Dove. I'm like, what the hell is this Lonesome Dove that everyone's talking about? So ease on down another year or so, and it was time to get my dad a birthday present, birthday or Christmas present. I'm not sure. This is back in the age of VHS. So of course, you know how sometimes they would put like several episodes on one VHS and like stretch it out. Yeah, I mean the tape didn't last as long because the image quality was inferior because I had to cram it into an extended cassette. But I got him the Lonesome Dove miniseries, and of course my dad put it in. He said, "You want to watch it with me?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So I start watching, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this is excellent." It's a slow, it's a slow moving story, but the acting talent was fantastic. I mean, Robert Duvall, Tommy Lee Jones, Angelica Houston, Danny Glover. Um, just trying to think who else. DB Coop. I mean DB Sweeney. Um, Cooper. I forget his first name. But on and on and on. Just great acting talent. There's a couple in there I'm forgetting because of senior moments. Ricky Schroeder was in it playing Newt, and it's kind of it's probably one of the best westerns ever committed to film. I mean, sweeping. It's just so achingly beautiful because Larry McMurtry. Let's get this out of the way. He's a manic depressive. He's a depressive, and it shows up in his writing. And what Lonesome Dove really is, uh, it's about the passing of an age, especially the last two books, Lonesome Dove and Streets of the Raven. It's the passing of an age of a way of life as the Indians slowly die off and get put on reservations, and of course the Texas Rangers are no longer needed. So of course the wild freedom of the Wild West was now passing into memory, and that kind of sadness, that melancholy, is in every page of those books, especially the last two. And in general, Larry McMurtry's writing is all about paths not taken, regrets that weigh you down for the rest of your life, um, and a lot of capricious violence too, because the frontier wasn't safe. I mean, you could pick the wrong bush to, like, to relieve yourself in, and a Comanche could just kill you right there. Take your scalp and that's what happens at the beginning of Dead Man's Walk. And I'll get into the chronology of those books in a minute, but yeah, his Larry McMurtry's body count is pretty high. It's higher than a lot of horror movies come to that. Excuse me. Nice sip of coffee. The thing is, perversely, I kind of get off on that sense of sadness, that sense of regret in times past, and how you didn't do enough with your life. I guess maybe I must be a depressive myself because that really resonates with me. But it goes like this: the Lonesome Dove quadrilogy, tetralogy, what have you. They were written as such were Lonesome Dove, Streets of Laredo, written there, and then we zip around back in time, and the next two novels that Larry McMurtry wrote were Dead Man's Walk and Comanche Moon. It's almost like how Star Wars did. Star Wars started in the middle and then looped around and told the backstory afterwards, type thing. And when I was alive, my dad would tell me about Comanche Moon, and at the time there were three miniseries. That book had just come out, and Comanche Moon had not been turned into a miniseries yet. But when it did, I took it with me to show my dad. He even had to buy like new equipment to see it. He didn't have a DVD player at all, so we got one at Canada Tire, which was pretty much like the Best Buy of the store. So we got it there. I hooked it up to his little Sylvania TV. I think I let him have that one, and we sat and we watched it. And I'm glad it was like full circle. My dad had introduced me to Lonesome Dove, and then I introduced him to the miniseries version of Comanche Moon, which he'd been talking about quite a bit. He would talk a lot about Ina's Skull. He was an interesting character in himself. Turned out to be played by none other than I hate these senior moments. I hate them. Oh, he was in Top Gun. Top Gun. Top Gun. Um, I hate getting old. Your memory just goes. Of course, I'll probably remember it after Val Kilmer. That's it. Played by Val Kilmer. Did a pretty good job too. And since he wrote the screenplay to all these miniseries, he took the parts that worked well for the medium and condensed them, for those miniseries to great effect, I think. But when you're reading these books, you're basically reading about the life and times of Augustus McCrae and Captain Woodrow Call. Like, they join the Rangers when they're super, super young because they're both kind of like orphaned and homeless. And you basically see them grow. All four books take place over like probably over a 40-year period. And the whole time they're basically policing the Mexican border, as what Texas Rangers do, from the likes of Buffalo Hump, Buffalo Hump, and the Comanches mainly, but their old enemy Buffalo Hump, and then later his son Blue Duck, they would forever be getting into tussles with them, and of course, Kicking Wolf shows up, steals all their horses. It's basically a large tapestry as time goes on, and and each book visits these two men in different stages of their life, and and as you would expect, um, there's a lot of bittersweet sadness in there. Especially take for example, I will mention this: if you go to buy yourselves the Lonesome Dove sets, a lot of times Return to Lonesome Dove shows up in those sets. Now, Return to Lonesome Dove is not based on a Larry McMurtry book. It's based on some of the concepts. It's based on the concept of Lonesome Dove. For one thing, Gus isn't, spoiler alert, Gus isn't in it anymore because Gus got killed towards the end of Lonesome Dove in a very typically Larry McMurtry casual way, almost casual way. Um, so it's basically Streets of Laredo picks up almost immediately after. I mean, I'm sorry, not Streets of Laredo. Return to Lonesome Dove picks up immediately after Lonesome Dove leaves off. John Voight replaces Tommy Lee Jones as Captain Call. Barbara Hershey replaces Angelica Houston as Clara Allen. Man, those are the two real big replacements, to be quite honest. Um, I don't know, it was a sequel in the sense that it was far more Hollywood. It was more like a traditional Western, complete with shootouts and everything like that, but it still attracted top acting talent. You had Oliver Reed playing a rival rancher up in Montana, where they brought, where the first miniseries, where the Hat Cattle Creek Ranch, started by Captain Call, was. And of course, big surprise, there was already a rancher there, like about like 50, 60 miles off, played by Oliver Reed. And Reese Witherspoon is, I guess, played as his very young wife. In that one, you basically have Newt, who didn't get his father's name in Lonesome Dove. Newt is Call's son, but he didn't want to give him his name because that would admit that that he made a mistake in not marrying his mother Maggie. And of course, Captain Call ain't gonna do that because Captain Call is very practical and very stupid and doesn't have a whole lot of emotional intelligence. We'll just put it that way. So a lot of Return to Lonesome Dove was all about like Newt and his dad reconciling. And rumor has it that Larry McMurtry hated that so much. When he wrote Streets of Laredo, he wasted no time in killing off Newt. Um, anyway, on camera no less, because he didn't particularly like that happy ending. And that's the thing with Comanche Moon. You don't. That's the thing with Larry McMurtry. You don't get happy endings. You get kind of. Um, that kind of sucked, but it is kind of an ending, so I guess we'll live with it type thing. He's unrelentingly unsentimental with the Old West, and it's really just a bunch of people eking out a living across these four books, doing the best they can with the gifts that they have. And sometimes luck comes down to their survival as much as skill type thing. Life is just life, basically. There's no, there are no shootouts at high noon. Uh, that kind of thing. A lot of the old tired Western tropes that show up don't show up in these books. It's just basically the West and people trying to survive in it, and they're populated with a lot of freaky ass characters, I have to say. Um, but Larry McMurtry's writing is very very rich, kind of a moseying. It's kind of a moseying prose that keeps you going along, and I remember reading. I decided to reread these books. I want to say about maybe a year ago. And as I was reading Dead Man's Walk, like I said, there's sort of like a bittersweet sort of sadness to these books. And I remember while reading the book on the plane, Bill was he was a few months shy of dying. And I would hit like a particularly sad moment in Dead Man's Walk, and I would basically my eyes would start watering up on the plane because I guess on some level I knew what was coming with my husband. So only now did I decide to read. Well, some time has passed, so I'm going to read Comanche Moon. Much like between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, I like to leave some time so I can get that sense that time has passed between the books, that kind of thing. But just one last note on Return to Lonesome Dove. Uh, that particular, I guess we'll call it, that strand of the Lonesome Dove multiverse, we'll call it, that strand in which Newt lived led to a Lonesome Dove TV series with Newt Newt Dobbs. Was it Newt Dobbs? Yeah, Newt Dobbs as the star of it. Him basically finding his own way. It was a two-season western. The first one was very, very almost like almost like Hallmark level, like family friendly, very wholesome, that kind of thing. Um, and then something happens over the second season. It becomes as dark as Deadwood almost. The tonal shift is like jarring, like whiplash jarring. And I have all of these. I have all of these downstairs on one level or the other because I like Lonesome Dove a lot. So I'm gonna like see every stitch of it that came out. But you can really tell the difference between the Larry McMurtry based works and the ones not based on Larry McMurtry. So this story has been with me for the better part of 35 years. And it's a story I return to. Those characters are as alive as any real person in my book. And I've seen them, I don't know how many times with my husband, Bill, all four of them. I've introduced other friends to it. Um, and it's a story, it's such a well done story. It stays with you. It really, really stays with you. And it's one of the great ones that continue to live again the more people read it. Um, it'll be a while before I like actually pick up Lonesome Dove. But after having seen Comanche Moon, I might spend this afternoon like popping in that miniseries so I can compare it. I can compare what made it to the screen and how McMurtry himself was able to distill it, and he does a really really good job. I mean, there's some stuff in there you can't like put in like the Black Vaccaro Ahumado. Um, I believe he was naked in the book. It's just this really nasty piece of work, like over the border of Mexico, where he has a camp where he basically ambushes people and kidnap and tortures them to death because he's a sadist. You know, if he'll hang you in a cage and he'll make you like try to catch birds so that you don't die, but he'll he's just curious as to how long it's going to take you to die type thing. He's got this guy that will skin you alive, and in the book it took off Captain Innes Skull's eyelids. They didn't do that in the miniseries because it's like ow, 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 ow. As a matter of fact, Captain Skull had to make himself some special glasses in the book. I could almost picture it as almost like steampunk, because he had different lenses he could dip down to if it was too bright he could slide another lens over, so that he wasn't being blinded. But yeah, I really had a good time with this book. I was always eager to get back to it. So Mark Richardson, yeah, feel free to revisit. I'm sure you'll discover a lot of stuff that you missed. You know how it is with stories. Sometimes a story sticks with you and you revisit it during different parts of your life. Maybe you'll get certain things out of it that you didn't get in an earlier reading, or maybe the story feels different because you've changed. Um, that's what Lonesome Dove is. And yeah, so the story will be with me for the rest. There's something else, of course, I wanted to say, and of course I know I'm gonna forget saying it I'm gonna remember it after I turn off this video. But I'm going on 20 minutes now, and I kind of don't want to. Like babble endlessly. But I will tell you that I'm gonna definitely read some more Larry McMurtry, but not in a row because that much darkness is not good for a person. So I don't know. For my next reading, I'm probably gonna like switch it up a little bit. Just for a palate's cleanser, I'll choose something completely different, just to kind of pivot into a new direction. Not sure what it's going to be yet, so I'm still clearing out my books downstairs. I intend to do it today for a little bit, and we'll see. Maybe that will send me a new reading direction. So thank you very much for sticking with me this long. I appreciate it. If you're a reader, please check out the Lonesome Dove tetralogy, quadrilogy. I'll list them again. In internal chronology: Dead Man's Walk, Comanche Moon, Lonesome Dove, Streets of Laredo. Go get them, and you'll be following the adventures of Augustus McRae and Captain Call and all their friends as they age through the 1800s, and it'll be a solid tale for you. So, all the best, take care, and we'll speak to you soon.